exciting edition of Books and Financial Review. That's the place where awesome writers meet awesome readers. You know that if I come your way like this, then we are going to talk about books. I always promise you that this is the place where we recommend all the best reads for our personal development. Today we are not far from this agenda. Today we have a storyteller in the house to tell us about his background and all the stories that she has putting up. You know, when we're growing up, just after our fufu in the evening, we'll gather around our grandparents. They will tell us stories. Some of these stories shape and mold us in certain ways, and so storytelling has a great privileges that it offers generation, especially younger ones. And this program is brought to you by Fembis Accounting Services, Engine Communication, and Africa Must Read. Stay tuned, we will be right back. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is Books and Financial Review. This is the place where awesome writers meet awesome readers. Today we are meeting an awesome storyteller to tell us all she knows about storytelling, the importance, and all the stories she has herself come up with. Today we are privileged to have with us in the house Mrs. Yasewa Someone.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you. Okay, Auntie, storytelling. Give us a brief background of yourself before we come to storytelling.
My name is Yasewa Someone, and I am half Kwawu and half Achim. My mom is an Achim from Achimuntro 9. My dad is from Kwawu, Obo. I grew up in Ghana and I was trained as a teacher, so I've taught in many schools here in Ghana before traveling to Canada about 15 years ago. I am married with 4 kids. I have between 25 and 7 years. I have a pension baby running around in my house, and I have an adult man eating my food for nothing. Yeah, I like working with kids. And I do so by designing interesting programs, telling stories, and giving them a lot of food to eat.
That's great and wonderful. Okay, so tell us, how did you cultivate the interest in storytelling?
I am a village girl. So I grew up in a small village. There were no TV. Thankfully, there were lights. So sometimes our peers, my age mate, will meet under one of the lights that were provided by the Catholic Church. And we tell stories. But I think we learned the story from our grandparents. Okay. My grandparents in particular told us a lot of stories. And most of these stories were some cautions to tell us you are not supposed to do this, the values of the community and all those things. And they crafted them in what I used to say hudious areas, so that you will fear. And they will talk about travel, why you are not supposed to marry from far away, and like all kind of things came into the story that they crafted, and we learned from them. And then we as a group, because there were no TV to watch, there were no phones to press, we meet as a group and we shared these stories among ourselves, and that is where I developed that interest in telling stories.
Okay, great. So you are a storyteller now.
Yes.
You mentioned one thing that they portrayed it in a humorous way. I remember one of the stories from my grandmother used to tell me. I think the song is Onchiwo Dora.
Onchiwo Dora. Very good. I like that.
And so that thing, up till now, I'm not used to staying out very late, because that it has built some value.
Yes, in you.
Character.
Very good.
Okay,
yeah.
So you are a storyteller now. How do you get your inspiration to tell your stories, either than they trying to put fear in us and all that? Where do you get your inspiration?
I think I developed a lot of interest in learning from what my grandparents were telling us, and I became a teacher. And if you are a teacher, you need to gather a lot of resources to teach, and one of my tools was storytelling. So through that, I have told a lot of stories to kids that I teach, to kids that are in my Sunday school program. So I pick some of the stories from the Bible and then I tell them. But I think most of the inspiration comes from as a child learning from my parents and seeing the values that I imbibed. I saw it's important that I should transfer that kind of character into the next generation. Yes. And I have consciously done that in most of the stories that I tell.
Okay. Your target audience are the kids?
Yes, yes. For the storytelling, yes.
The target audience are the kids?
Yes.
Okay, so how many stories have you written so far?
You know, it's interesting because my grandparents didn't know how many stories they would tell. The Anansi stories were numerous. They tell stories about alligator, the snake, swallowing somebody who went to farm, and so I don't think I have a count, but when you ask how many stories I have written, then I'll be able to put a number to it. I have written a lot of stories into my 50s, but I took the self-publishing route and have published about 13 of them.
Okay, 13 yes. of them, all stories?
All stories. No, I think, yeah, basically they are stories. I drafted some in poems, I drafted some in drama book, but the idea is to tell the story. Okay, yes, okay. Yeah.
So before we go for break, what do you want these stories to achieve in the younger generations?
You know, when I was growing up, I valued books, and so with the ability to put them in written form instead of it being in my head and always orally telling it, I want to inspire the younger kids to be able to keep that quality of an African child telling a story, because it is not always easy for like others to tell story when it hasn't come to them. But for us, we come from a home, our parents are there and they tell the story. So I want to encourage the younger kids that this is us. We tell stories. We have the drama. We don't have to go to school to learn it. And so when they are learning, when their parents or their grandparents are telling a story, they should learn it. I also want people who don't come from my background to have a taste of the values that I grew up with. There are kids who have been born outside the traditional home where parents don't tell them stories at all. So when they take my books, they should be able to learn one or two things about who they are, what cultures we have, and what are the values that our parents don't have the time to show to them. And I think I am doing a great job. Yes. Pardon myself.
That's wonderful. I think you are leading me to my next question, which is it's storytelling being a heritage for Africans.
Yes.
Before we come to that, we'll be going for some short messages. Remember, this program is brought to you by Africa Must Read, Fembis Accounting Services, and Engine Communication. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is your favorite and #1 book show. This is Books and Financial Review. This is the place where awesome writers meet awesome readers. As I mentioned today, we are meeting an awesome writer, story writer, in the person of Mrs. Yasewa Somwa. Before the break, he mentioned some of the books that she has authored. Her target audience are the kids. So I'll mention some of them to you, although it's unfortunate that you can't read with me. I have enjoyed all of this already. So if you want copies, the numbers are on the screen. Call for, you can get a whole package for your kids. You know, we all know the importance of reading, so we are not going to mention all of that again. Okay, so we have Sepha's first day at school. Sepha's first day at school. She will mention to us some of the moral lessons in the books. Sepha and her flower friends. I think I love this.
Oh.
To be able to maintain our environment. Yeah. Then a fruit a day will keep a flu away. Fruit a bit. Then we have Sleepwalking. I Came First. This one, it teaches how to build confidence in the younger ones. Yes. Sefa Goes to the Kente Market. A Free Year. Oyiwa. Ni Papa. That's all great books. And my favorite is Fruitabeds.
Yes.
And Sefa and her Flower Friends. Fruitabeds, especially when our younger ones, our kids, they are beginning to read. This book is so interesting. He's been able to use the alphabets to be able to identify all the fruits in the whole world.
Interesting.
Fruits that I've not heard.
Yeah, yes,
Some
true.
of them, I've seen them actually, but I don't really know their
Yes, yeah.
But this book will introduce you to their names, and so interesting that she was able to introduce them with their alphabets. So the kids, those who are doing phonics now, they will be able to read this and they will enjoy it. Trust me. There's Sefa and her Flower Friends. I have mentioned my favorite ones. It's left with you to pick yours so that you can also identify your favorites. Okay, coming back to you. Yeah.
Yes.
I believe we ended on the part that storytelling is part of us.
Yes.
I believe that as Africans, it's a gift. It's a talent for us.
Yes.
When an African is telling a story.
Oh yeah.
We have it.
Yes.
So, do you think that, let's narrow it down to the country, Ghana?
Yes.
Have we done a lot with regards to these gifts and talents we have as storytellers?
For me, I think yes, in a way, because I grew up with a lot of the stories that were written by most African writers. I remember Amate Edu, Efueti Sutherland. I read most of the books, and for me, it was like when you were a kid and you thought Egypt was in heaven. Yeah. So to see an African name behind the book was fascinating enough, and I think those people got the chance to write the books because the institutions that were there at their time were active. So I will go back to what Nkrumah did by setting up a lot of systems that allow a lot of Ghanaians, those who know how to sing well, those who know how to write well. But I think in some part there has been a gap between that interest of encouraging most of our younger generations to use the tools that we have. Like if you are born outside the beach, automatically if your parents are fishermen, you know how to row the canoe. So we are born into stories, but our focus has shifted into so many things right now that literature in a way is becoming not as prominent as I grew up with. I read so many books that really informed who I am and what I do presently, like telling the stories. I remember when I read this book, Amate Fio's book, Pedi Akunde Adventure. You know, I can still remember most of the stories, and when I write the little kid stories, most of the content informed what I do. Okay. Yeah, but if we allow those group of people to die off, and then a new generation that are coming that we are not doing a lot to encourage them. I think now I see a lot of things in TV like dance shows where kids are learning how to dance, or they are doing talent shows. Yeah, all those things. So, and then I see science. Is it there's a science quiz, science and math quiz, which is very strong. So are we also doing the same thing in the storytelling where in my village in the night we compete among ourselves? Okay. Who is the best storyteller? Who can tell the most humorous story? Yes, and then by the close of the night we know that this person won, though we don't give them award. Are we doing that now? Are we inviting our children to tell the stories in our own language and also in English, which has become our main lingua franca? Are we doing that? If we are not doing that, then I think the agencies that are present now, the governmental, the non-profit, we are not doing much. Like how, Nkrumah and them did to have great writers like Amat Efiu, Efweti Sedland, those who wrote Yadonko, Impoasanti Amwa. They were great books. Okay. So I think we should pick them up again. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So taking from that, these are books that has preserved our culture.
Yes.
Through writing.
Yes, of course. Yes.
They be able to instill values. You mentioned
in us
that has made you the woman that you are.
Yeah.
But you said there is a gap. It seems like there is a gap. If you don't do anything about it, the next generation might lose this.
They might. Like right now we have a lot of tools. I always say that the technology is at its best now. How best are we using it as Africans or as Ghanaians? Are we just using it to make TikToks or to make easy jokes and other things? We can use the digital storytelling where we use the tools and the pictures, the funny pictures that we take, and put a story beneath those. So we create digital storytelling.
We should all pick up and then try to close this
gap. Yes.
Still on the moral values and probably wanting to shift. Storytelling. I believe storytelling is one way that you can communicate a social issue,
of course,
without them being attacked.
Yeah.
Well, you are telling a
yes,
story.
Yeah.
So you will not be attacked directly, but in a way, you've been able to put a story out there that will trigger people as to be conscious of certain social or environmental issues, like you put it in Sefa and the Flowers, how to keep our surroundings clean, and then maintain our plants.
Yeah, you never know what you gain from it. Yes,
maintain our plants. So what are some other benefits that you think as a storyteller the community can derive from?
I'll tell you a story because I am a storyteller.
Okay.
There's this old man in my village who was always drunk, and he used to sing.
You see, she's telling us the story.
He used to sing every time he's drunk, and I want to sing that song for you. He's singing like Nyami no bo na be, no bo wana wocha, no bo wana wonum, mikra bejin sanum, se minum na mi bua, minfa ena nyeshi. Mimpani minyankupon mikra bejinsan. I was a kid, but every time he would sing this song, we would laugh at him. At a point when I was writing a book, that song came to me directly. I didn't even know I knew the words, and I give credit to him. His name was Teacher Kwachi. So you see, the content of the song may not do anything to me, but it has enriched what I write. So if we look at the values of our story, our stories, there are content and we communicate. I always say those times it was an intergenerational communication between kids and grandparents. Here you put grandparents and kids around the table. The kids are pressing our phone and the grandparents are lost. But in storytelling, the grandparents can communicate, can tell. My grandmother used to sing this song, Abrawiniewo wisiawo wantiyo, Abrawiniewo wisiawo wantiyo. And that song was like, those times they didn't want to go and they didn't want the girls to go and marry far away from home. Because they said that because there were no planes, there were no cars. Yeah, so if you go and marry and something happens at home, how would you come? How would you know? And she put that in a song. Chinelika krinkrinka krinkrinka krinkin. We will be doing all of this in the village and you are somewhere you will never know. And she will sing the song. So it was a way of communicating what the community values. That girls, we should marry in our community so that we can always stay at home. And then if you are somebody who steals, she will tell a story in the evening that will even make you scared. I think she told a story of somebody who always steal meat from the soup. After they finish eating, then you go and steal meat from the soup. One day you go, somebody put the hand in the soup and a frog came out. She didn't know it was a frog. She put the frog in the mouth and then she puked. And because of that, you have to stop stealing meat. So they use these things to communicate. And the values in the story, it also preserve our history. If our parents are not telling their stories, we wouldn't know how they grew up with. When we are telling our stories to the next generation, we talk about yam. You know, the phone we call yam. Yeah. My daughter wouldn't know what yam is, but we know, and we will find a way to tell them the story. We'll talk about the telephone where they will come and tell you, oh, when you call, and or 6 o'clock. You know, those times there was a post office, yes, and there was a phone booth. And yeah, if we don't tell these stories, we don't put them in books, we don't bring them, we don't craft them around it, then our children will not know our history, yeah, and they will not value whatever we went through. And that's what I stand for. Okay.
That's so great. That's so great. The history is so important, because they said if you don't know where you are coming from, then you've lost a sense of direction.
Yes, yeah. Like if I think they also say this way that so refi ukromu hinechi ya ubeyira wo bedroom, because you don't have any roots, you don't have anything to make reference to.
That's such a great input. Okay, so this program is brought to you by Famous Accounting Services for your tax returns, for your payrolls, your bookkeeping, business advice. Call the numbers on the screen. This program is brought to you by Africa Must Read and Engine Communication. On this note, we'll take some short messages. We'll be right back. Welcome again. This is Books and Financial Review. This is your #1 place to get all the quality books for your personal development. Today we are not far from that. Today we are talking about storytelling, and we have an author in the house today who have come up with, she said, 15 books, authored for children. So if you are looking for great reads this month for your children, these are the books that I recommend for you. They have rich values that we'll be able to imbibe in our children, in terms of their environment, in terms of a whole lot. I can't mention all of them. I told you Fruta Birds and Sefa and her Flower Friends are my favorite. So you get your copies as well, and also determine your favorite. You can call the numbers on the screen for your bulk purchases. You're also looking for people who can also sponsor to buy in large quantities. We can take them to villages where these kids cannot really afford them. So if you can contribute to that, you should also call the numbers on the screen. We can also supply to your old school. It's not, we are most concerned about our SS.
Yes, yeah.
But where we attended,
we started our class one.
Villages, our villages, we can, sponsor to buy some of these books and also contribute to the lives of these little ones. Awesome. And back to you, Auntie Sewa. Mm-hmm. So from this, what are some of the challenges you face as a storyteller and an author?
Yeah, I think I wanted the easy route, and there are two forms of publishing. There's the traditional publishing, and then there's the self-publishing. So I took the self-publishing to get my story out on my own way. And the challenge I face is like if you are a sole proprietor or you are a one-person business, if you don't go out there to open your shop, then it's not selling. Yeah. So that has been the challenge of selling the books. But you know the funny thing, for me as a child growing up, my biggest interest was to have my picture at the back of a book. I never thought writers live on this earth. So that was my biggest inspiration. So to achieve that alone brings some form of fulfillment. Okay. Now I have to set another goal of marketing and selling the books, and I think that has been the challenge. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So if I don't go out there to market it, if I don't go out there to sell, then the pile sits at home. Yeah, and I think it's a story that every self-publisher will say that if you don't go out there to sell, there's no editor somewhere, there's no marketer somewhere who has your books in bookstores and selling them for you.
Okay.
That's my challenge.
Okay. So what do you think should be the way forward?
And I like what you are doing. What you just did is the way forward. If we have individuals, parents, schools, and all school associations, alumni who take interest in us as self-publishers and take our books and send it to their schools, donate them to certain villages that need reading materials, then we'll be able to do much for those who are publishing individually. Yeah.
That's such great. I believe you've enjoyed Auntie Sewaje. She ended up telling us a story.
A story in a story, yes. Yes.
That's so wonderful. Great to have you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I really enjoyed this interview. This is one of my best interviews, I must comment. Okay, thank you also for watching. I believe we've been able to learn something. And so if you are also a storyteller out there, I believe Auntie has encouraged you to put your stories also into writing, get a way to bring them out.
Yes.
And then let people learn the moral issues. You know, there are so many things that is going on wrong in our community.
Yes.
If you are afraid to speak it out,
tell it in the story. Awesome. Yeah.
Nobody will come at you.
Yes.
Because you're only telling a story.
And now they have the cell phones, so you can use that to create digital stories if you feel too lazy to write. Yeah. It is an easy tool, and it is preserved. If you save it on YouTube or other things, the next generation will make good use of it.
Yes. My most my interesting part is that the moral lessons that you are able to imbibe
into the stories
on a way, unintentionally, but you are saying something.
Yes.
You are doing something. I remember all the stories my grandmother used to tell me, and these things are still with me. And they are still with me.
Yeah.
So I think this is such a great step, and then we can always encourage these authors by supporting and also buying the books they bring out there. If we bring a book out there and there are no sales, how are they going to get funds to print other
Yes,
books?
yeah.
And so as I petition, if you have the funds, if you can support to buy quantities, send it to orphanages, send it to schools, send it to your secondary, your old secondary schools. Please just call the numbers on the screen. Let's do that so that we can get more stories out there. So we also encourage and imbibe the culture of reading in the younger generation. It's been great spending time with you. Thank you.
Thank you
Auntie, for telling us a story in a story.
Thank you for having me here.
Okay, so please. Okay, so please call the numbers on the screen to get your copies as soon as possible. This program is brought to you by Femis Accounting Services, Engine Communication, and Africa Must Read. It's been great spending time with you. Let's help our little ones cultivate the culture of reading. Thanks for making time with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
For coming. Thank you so much. Thank you for making time with us. It's been great time with you. Call me also very important. Until then, stay blessed.